I assume you want to still include school buildings, to form a 5-member bond committee to encompass police and fire department, school building capital planning. That's the complete.
And that was seconded by Art.
I didn't hear a second.
Art. Okay, all in favor? Selectman Buckner, Melcher, Wilkes, Welcome, opposed. Selectman Kapitianka. Motion passes.
Just approved tonight the largest single capitalization of the town of Winchester since the flood of '55. The total number is $41,875,000 in appropriations. Total $32 million of it goes straight into the school system. That's a horrific number to look at, but it's only modified by a refund rate of 54.4%, or $22,880,000, leaving a total debt package of the town of Winchester of $18,995,000. You say to yourself, Villa, you have lost your mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. You mentioned a couple times when you were going through drug investigations.
Yeah.
What kind of drug investigations exactly? I mean, are we talking about heroin or are we talking about marijuana?
No, we're talking about heroin and crack.
Okay.
Which both are a problem for us.
Right, because I would just say right off, I mean, our state legislature overwhelmingly, I think there was maybe 13 legislators that voted not to decriminalize marijuana. Massachusetts decriminalized marijuana. I think that the only reason it's not currently decriminalized is because our governor vetoed it. And personally, I lived in Colorado for 10 years. The citation out there is like, I think it's like a $50 ticket, and I just hope we're not wasting any money on that.
No, the last drug operation that we had, and I can put together the cases that we had. I think we made 10 arrests on it. We're all for heroin and crack.
Right.
And
which is, you know, obviously you would.
Those investigations on the shoestring. I went to Keith, explained to him we didn't have the money for overtime. My officers agreed to do it for compensatory time. We went out, put investigations together. We shut down some places that were right near the church that were dealing crack. There's people there that are still facing jail time. There was another place down on Park Place, a crack house that we shut down. There was a person that was selling Vicodin, getting prescriptions from this doctor in Waterbury and then selling the Vicodin up at Island Way, and he was arrested. So we were productive with the limited amount that we had. And I need to continue to do that because you know you can't back off and stop your enforcement efforts. But we don't have the overtime money to do it. And I can't keep asking my officers to do it for compensatory time because eventually we pay overtime for that. So what I need is some assistance, and the federal government's going to give us that in the way of about $10,000 in cash.
No, I was just curious because obviously there's a distinction between, you know.
It's not marijuana.
Like that, you know, right. Which
our property's run a lot deeper than that.
Dave?
So I guess this is a little off the subject here, but I guess I just want to be clear. You're suggesting that the PD not bother to enforce the existing marijuana laws in the state of Connecticut because you believe it should be legalized?
I think that just we're talking about overtime, and that as it was listed down here as far as investigations, contractual agreements, that was one of the things that he had listed. He cited not continuing the DARE program. You know, I think there's obviously a distinction between things like heroin and cocaine and marijuana. That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying he shouldn't spend much time worrying about marijuana?
I certainly wouldn't want a costly investigation to go and be wasting taxpayer dollars on that, no.
Wasting taxpayer dollars on drug violations. Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board.
So I will be voting for the bond package. So I will be voting for the bond package. So I will be voting for the bond package.
Hi, me again, Lisa Smith. There were 4 people up for reappointment for the rec board, and I was the only one who didn't get reappointed. I would just like to give the opportunity to those who didn't vote to reappoint me a chance to tell me why, other than time for a change. Since I'm here and, thought maybe it's a good time, let me know.
Well, for myself personally, I think there's way too many people on the Board of Recreation. And I think I've attended some of the meetings, and I just think that I know it says a maximum, and I know they're right at the maximum, so I just think through attrition that was the only thing that was on my mind.
So out of the 4, did you just draw straws and my name was the one who got the short straw, or how did you come to me being the one? I'm just curious.
I wouldn't say we drew straws, no. I mean,
Guys, anyone else?
Well, in addition to what Kenny was just saying, in fact, I think the commission ought to be down to about 9 people. But I know you had a pretty strong position in regards to the rec director, whether it should be full-time or part-time.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely adamantly believe that it should be a full-time position, and I know you disagree with that. So
I do.
That was a big part of my rationale.
So if we disagree, then we shouldn't be on boards. As long as everybody has the same ideas, then you should be on a board.
No, absolutely not. But when you're in a position to make appointments, you appoint people that you believe are going to do what you think is in the best interest of the community.
Yep.
That's what appointments are all about.
Jeff?
Pretty much what on both counts. I agree. I think the recreation director should be a full-time position. It's a professional position. It should be full-time. And I also think a 13-member commission is way too big. Numerous studies have shown that smaller groups get more work done faster.
Next.
I agree with all of that. So.
Okay, thanks.
Fellow commissioners Dick Labick, Steve Molinelli, Art Melcher, and Jack Wynn. Pearson School. It fixes Bachelor School. It fixes Hinsdale School. It builds a new police station. It builds 2 new fire stations. It replaces 4 pieces of apparatus. It moves the Board of Education into the old firehouse to get us out of rented property. It creates a community center, youth center for the town in the upper floors of the old Elm Street station. It also provides for remediation here in this building for the reoccupation of the 4,000 square feet of the front end when the police station is vacated. It provides for the installation of generation at pump stations, modification of a particular roadway that's a known deadly hazard on Wakefield Boulevard. It provides for the replacement of essential equipment over a 7-year period for, not including the fire department, of turnout gear, Scott air packs, consumable equipment, mobile equipment.
I'm watching the show, I'm sitting in the audience. What's it going to cost me each year? What does it mean to me as a taxpayer?
Well, what it can mean, to answer your question, is that we know that there's certain bonding that's going to retire in the next fiscal year, depending on how quickly this money is drawn down, and there are a number of variables, and I don't presume to speak like a bond counsel or a financial advisor. If it, in round numbers, to fund this entire project is $1,600,000 a year, minus the retired bond, the 1988 educational bonding, which amounts to almost $750,000, and after we have the statistical reevaluation, it's likely that the value of a mill will become greater than what it is. The mill is $588,000. With statistical reval, it suggested that a mill might be worth $610,000 to $625,000. So with the retired money, and this was preeminent in our thoughts in terms of the size, scope, and length of this thing, we wanted to keep it under 2 mills net.
Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Winchester, the projects described in Section 2 of the reporting of the Ad Hoc Bond Commission for a report pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 824, revision of 1958, as amended. Board of Selectmen, Town of Winchester further refers the entire reportings of the Ad Hoc Bond Commission of 7/16/07 and the entire reporting of the Fire Police Capital Planning Commission to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a report pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes 824, revision of 1958, as amended.
Is there a second?
An amendment to the motion of acceptable to our, the reporting of the Ad Hoc Bond Commission is accepted by the Board of Selectmen and is adopted as the capital plan of the Town of Winchester.
Okay.
Art made the motion.
Right.
It's here in the body of your statement to
Right.
send it to P&Z.
Okay.
To send those to P&Z. I simply added on the first part about accepting the commission report and adopting it as the capital plan for the Town of Winchester.
Wilkes, welcome. Opposed? Selectmen Capabianca, Case, and Buckner. Motion passed.
George Clausen, 59 Lakeview Road. I'd like to add to your comments, Madam Mayor. As a taxpayer, to see this kind of leadership where we have a committee that's a commission that's been put together to look at very, very important issues before us in our community, and to see this kind of activity and this kind of reporting and the dedication of the ad hoc committee, I've got to praise you for your leadership in putting it together, and Dave Villa and his entire commission. From my point, of view as just a taxpayer, I think it's extremely important and very far-reaching, what we've got to be looking forward to. And I think that it's a very uncomfortable thing to look at what's going to be for increase in taxes and so forth. But I think Dave did a very good job of explaining that we really have had savings over these years of not spending money on a lot of these maintenance items and issues that have ballooned into something that we're seeing today. But a lot of it is also new regulations, things that we've learned, and what the state agencies have learned, and how we should improve our environments for the kids, for the needs for our police department, our fire safety, and so forth, and ambulance. We need to be looking at this if we're going to be a community that obviously a lot of people are looking at and coming in our direction. We've got a wonderful area here, and we're, from the planning and zoning, we're involved right now. As you know, our plan of conservation development is way overdue. We're very active in trying to pursue this and move this along, and I thank you again. You've moved funds into the area that we can provide some planning documents, some mapping, and so forth. It's extremely important. It hasn't been done that I know of in our history. And again, this kind of leadership is what we need, and I thank you. And it's a thankless job to be sitting there as you do, but for everybody that does their homework and puts this kind of information together, I applaud you. Thank you.
Mayor, my name is Brian Horvath from 5 Elm Street. My family and I just moved into the area, into Winsted. This is my first time coming to a meeting like this. And I've been listening to everything that's been going on. I commend all of you for the work that you're ready to do, and as you're getting ready to commence on doing. but I would like to make a suggestion to you, is set up a task force of 3 or 4 people qualified to do the inspections of these buildings after the work is completed as an ongoing project, so that the buildings will stay in compliance year after year, and it won't cost you 20, 30, 40 million dollars. It'll only cost you a couple $100 just to make changes here and there.
Discussed briefly, you've got a large bond issue that's being discussed, and it's on the agenda tonight. I feel that a number of things have been put into a deferred maintenance in this community, and we can continue to delay and defer making judgments and decisions and so forth. And I think that you've established an ad hoc committee that did a fine job, did a very thorough report. And I think it's only fair that it move from this stage to the people, the voters of the community. And if we continue to delay, it's just going to get more expensive, and I don't think we're going to make the progress that we need to make. Thank you.
Proposed appropriation and borrowing authorization for costs relating to improvements to various town school facilities, including repairs, improvements, and remediation to the Isabel M. Pearson School, to the William H. Batchelor School, and to the Mary P. Hinsdale School, and for costs relating to the financing of the project, and calling of a town meeting and referendum to act on such appropriation and borrowing authorization.
May I read that?
Yes.
Oh, you need to change
Okay.
this so it's all...
Let's just stop for a second so we can change the tape.
No, I think that we've asked Doug Gillette to produce the documents based on the reports of the Public Safety Committee and the Bond Committee. Passed all the information off to him. He put that into a resolution that he's done before, and it's just a matter of these are the items that he's suggested to go on the agenda, and that will set in motion the resolution, the timeframes, and ultimately a town meeting followed by referendum. All the information is in the packet.
Okay. Yes.
Marion, I'd like to make a motion that we table items 9, 10, 11, and 12 until the next Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
I think it's an excellent idea because I believe this board won't be there. I believe that the documents, whether we look at the school side or the town side, when you look at the interest, you're paying 40% on buying equipment for the fire department that they can't buy for a couple of years. It's needed now. We've put in budgetary items that should be a part of an annual budget, not bonded, to the tune of, again, 40% based on these figures. And so I'm opposed to the whole structure of it, the excessive costs, the lack of detail, and I think it should be put off to the next Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
Move the question.
Is there a second to move the question? All in favor of moving the question? Selectman Capabianca, Case, Wilkes, it's unanimous. Okay. Read the question again, or the motion again, Sheila? Basically, the table.
To table items 9, 10, 11, and 12 until the next Board of Selectmen's meeting, right, Russ?
Me.
Yeah. All in favor of the motion? Selectman Capabianca, Case, Buckner, opposed. Selectman Melcher, Perez, Wilkes, welcome. Motion fails. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to a resolution, resolve that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby adopts the resolution presented to this meeting approving the appropriation of $32,472,000 for costs relating to improvements to various town school facilities, including repairs, improvements, and remediation to the Isabel M. Pearson School to the William H. Batchelor School and to the Mary P. Hinsdale School, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and approving the authorization of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. A copy of the resolution shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting, made a part thereof. Further resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby approves the setting of the dates for a special town meeting and referendum to act on the appropriation and borrowing authorization approved above, as reflected in the notice of such special town meeting and referendum presented to this meeting, which notice to the extent of its references to the aforesaid appropriation and borrowing authorization is hereby approved. A copy of the notice shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made a part thereof.
Second. Discussion. Yes.
Yes, specifically, again, I'd like to point out that I think that the amount of money, the process being suggested, historically, when the Pearson School, when renovations were done, I believe the Gilbert School allowed its students to go up there. There's not a lot of details on the process. Putting these bond issues together is too big of a cost for the people, and I'm opposed to it in its current form, and for the costs incurred, and the fact that we're going to be bonding items that should be purchased.
Yes.
I'd just like to just say that we've been at this process for a very, very long time. The process for putting these, putting the bonds together, the process for looking at them through the school building committee, the process of looking at the documents for the schools for a very long time. It's time for people to speak on this issue, whether you're for it or against it. I think it's time for it to go to a town meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes.
The $34 million, or $32.4 million to the schools, I mean, I really think this should be put off to the next Board of Selectmen, but my one concern is Pearson School is our main objective. That should be the first bond, period, by itself, put out, and engineering for that be taken care of. And this does them all in phases, a little bit at each school, and if we don't get Pearson School done before July of 2008, the federal government is going to have one heck of an issue. And also, there's some language in one of these bonds also that, you can delete it or add projects or delete the entirety of one or more projects if necessary or desirable to complete the remaining projects within appropriations amount. The last bond we did, we were told that whatever the town voted on is what you got done, whether it was downscaled a little bit or not. I don't agree in voting on a bond issue of such magnitude where you can delete stuff after it's been passed by the people. I think that's totally wrong and irresponsible, and I think it should be relooked at and taken care of, because if the people are going to vote on a bond, they're going to vote on a project. If things aren't done within that project, there's going to be heck to pay, because it gives the right within this bond to say, hey, we don't have the money to do that because this went over budget. That's wrong.
This board had 2 years. We had lots of issues during that period. The board before had considered this, but for the past 2 years, we were unable as a team to work together to deal specifically with the Pearson issue, just as Jay has said. Therefore, I believe we should table this, or we should vote it down and give it to the next board, because they're going to need to make some tough decisions fast to deal with this in a timely manner. And having this all wrapped together may be the very thing that precludes them from being effective in dealing with the standing issue of Pearson.
Further comment?
Yeah, I agree with Jay. There's no accountability in these bonds the way that the proposal is written, and I don't believe we had that discussion with our bond counsel. I think we instructed him to write the bond the way we wanted it, as opposed to getting good legal advice from him as we should, as we pay him for it. And I think we should have asked him whether this was the appropriate way to do it or not, instead of just giving it to him and saying this is the way we want it. I think we've made some serious mistakes here, included things in this package that don't belong in a bond package. It's too much money, it's too big, there's no accountability, and there'll be no controls when we start this project. It's a bad idea. I'll be voting no.
Okay. Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Round two?
One last comment. When I see a document that says replacement of various equipment contemplated to include, and then just starts listing things, this is, to me, is just a pile of money to be spent based on whatever someone decides to spend it on. Again, it's not well documented, it's not thorough and detailed enough, and I believe it should be put off to the next board.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I think in simple terms, what Russ is saying is that a lot of the stuff in there is simply a wish list. And somebody at some point is going to be able to make the determination which of those items we buy and which ones we don't buy. And if any of these projects run over, we're still going to be on the hook for the total amount of money, and we won't get all the projects done. And there is flexibility and no accountability in there. And I'm sorry, if our bond counsel told us this was a good way to do it, I seriously suggest we get a new bond counsel.
Anyone else? Yes.
Move the question.
Second.
All in favor of moving the question? 6 and 1 no. I never get a chance to have next. Okay. All in favor of the motion? Sheila, would you just kind of condense it, just so we know? The motion. We're voting to move this resolution forward.
To move the question.
That's done. That's done. We're voting now on the motion itself, which is basically to move the resolution forward. Okay? All in favor? Selectman Melcher, Perez, Wilks, welcome. Motion passes. Moving on to item 10.
You do opposed for the record?
I'm sorry, opposed? Case Capabianca? And Buckner. Possible action regarding proposed appropriation and borrowing authorization for costs relating to various improvements and renovations to and acquisitions of town facilities and equipment, including improvements to the Winchester Senior Center, various police fire safety improvements, acquisition and installation of 4 diesel particulate removal systems within the Public Works facility apparatus bays, improvements to portions of Wakefield Boulevard, renovation of the 27 Elm Street Fire Station to provide a multi-purpose use facilities, and improvements at the Town Hall to house the offices of the Town Clerk, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and calling of a town meeting and referendum to act on such appropriation and borrowing authorization.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion on the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby adopts the resolution presented to this meeting approving an appropriation of $10,012,000 for costs relating to various improvements and renovations to and acquisitions of town facilities and equipment, including improvements to the Winchester Senior Center, various police, fire, safety, and safety improvements, acquisition and installation of 4 diesel particulate removal systems within the Public Works facility, apparatus bays, improvement to portions of Wakefield Boulevard, renovation of the 27 Elm Street Fire Station to provide a multi-purpose use facility, and improvements at the Town Hall to house the offices of the Town Clerk, and for costs relating to the financing of the project, and approving the authorization of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. A copy of the resolution shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made a part thereof. Further resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby approve the setting of dates for a special town meeting and referendum to act on the appropriation and borrowing authorization approved above as reflected in the notice of such special town meeting and referendum presented to this meeting, which notice, to the extent of its references to the aforesaid appropriation and borrowing authorization, is hereby approved. A copy of the notice shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made part thereof.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
He's first.
Go ahead. Okay. You were first?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. I believe Lake Winchester, Winchester Center, is bound by all private property, so putting dry hydrants around there is going to be quite a task to do because we don't own any property around Lake Winchester, so it would be going after deeds and rights to get on people's property to put dry hydrants. I think West Wakefield Boulevard should be spelled out in a bond as East Wakefield Boulevard. Wakefield Boulevard is spelled out as East Wakefield Boulevard because that's the corner it's to be done. And once again, if people read on page 2 of that particular bond, I have the hardest time with to determine the scope of the particulars of the project may reduce or modify the scope of the projects, and the entirety appropriation may be spent on these projects so reduced or modified to delegate all the portions of such authority with respect to all the portions of the project, one or more building committees, to delete in the entirety one or more of the projects, if necessary or desirable, to complete the remaining projects within the appropriated amount. It's an open door. It's an open checkbook. If we don't make it with one project, we're just going to take the money and do it. It needs to be refined. It needs to be looked at more. It needs to be delineated down. It's an open checkbook. I believe that we need to move this on to the next board because I agree a lot of these things need to get done. There's got to be a better way to do this, and I think the next board needs to spend time to do it. And I'll be voting no once again.
Yes.
Not to reiterate what Jay said or to go back into my comments about the millions of dollars in interest we're talking about here, everybody at home would like to have your roof fixed. You'd like a new car. You'd like to maybe add a room on. Maybe you'd like to go from renting to buying a house. You'd like to have extra money for kids' college. But you don't just write yourself a check for everything you want all at once and go to the bank and take out a 30-year loan for it. And I consider this totally irresponsible and something that I hope people understand should be. It's all good items, just like at home, just like the stuff you'd always want. You just don't buy it all at once. And as a town that I just heard we're economically disadvantaged, and when I look at where we stand on different economic indicators in the state, I'm just wondering who these people are that'll be paying for this over the next 25 years and what people will think over those years as the mill rate goes up 1.6, 3.3, et cetera. So I'm totally against this in this form.
Selectman Press.
Again, I think the reason to move this forward is because this is a community discussion. This is a community discussion for the bond. There are people on both sides of the issue, and I think it's important to move it forward. As for your other comment about the money and whatnot, I've heard that the development is coming forward. There's supposedly millions of dollars in tax revenue that will be coming forward in the future. So I look forward to that, but I also, again, this is a community issue. It's been studied for the past year and a half. It's been in meetings. Members of this board have sat there, and members of this board that were not sitting there were also invited to those meetings numerous times to take part in the discussions with the school building committee, with the ad hoc committee. So I think it's time to move it forward to the community. The community will then decide if they want to go forward or if they want to have modifications made to it.
Okay. Anyone who hasn't spoken would like to speak? Okay. Round two.
Two things. Candy and I agree with you. We have been invited to the school building committees. I did go to two of them and I was refused to speak. There was no public comment. It was just the board, period. So I did not go to any more of them because there was no public comment and they refused me to speak. Secondly, I understand the project has been approved in pursuit of General State Statutes 824 and all the projects in the Bond Commission. This has to do with Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we have that certificate in front of us? And how does the Planning and Zoning Commission approve a bond project when they don't even know where these buildings are going or what properties they're going to be on? When it has to be in compliance with the town's plan of development. We don't even know the properties where they're going, so we don't even know if Planning and Zoning is going to approve those properties. If they've approved the bond, they've approved the bond just as it is, but it doesn't have exact information. And when you go for $34 million in the previous one and $10 million in this one, you better have darn exact information or don't go at all. And that's why I'd be voting no. And no, I wasn't asked to be on the bond committee that put this together. It was a slate of people put together that was presented to us at the Gilbert School without asking anybody else on the board if they'd be interested. Move the question.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Of moving the question.
Moving the question. 6 and 1 no. Me.
You.
Okay. Motion's been made to move forward the resolution for item 10, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Selectman Melcher, Perez, Wilks, welcome, opposed. Selectman Capabianca, Case, Buckner. Motion passes. Sheila, would you reread the motion, please?
Yes. Barbara, I assume you want to still include school buildings, to form a 5-member bond committee to encompass police and fire department, school building capital planning. That's the complete.
And that was seconded by Art?
I didn't hear a second.
Art. Okay, all in favor? Selectman Buckner, Melcher, Wilks, welcome, opposed. Selectman Capabianca. Motion passes.
Just approved tonight the largest single capitalization of the town of Winchester since the flood of '55. Total number is $41,875,000 in appropriations. Total $32 million of it goes straight into the school system. That's a horrific number to look at, but it's only modified by a refund rate of 54.4%, or $22,880,000, leaving a total debt package of the town of Winchester of $18,995,000. You say to yourself, Villa, you have lost your mind.